Time for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people. Reminding you that even though there's probably no point in it, the pickle protest does continue, so please pop a kosher dill on any MAGA porch, take a picture of it, send it to elsieslittlepickles@gmail.com so we can collect those. We
don't want a picture of your pickle.
No.
But the pickle
a kosher
that's on the porch.
Yes, a store, preferably store-bought kosher or bread and butter, but a good deli pickle. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, a good deli one.
So this is going to be a different one. We're going to obviously we'll get to the news in a minute, but I think you and I both agreed that we needed to take a break from as much politics as possible, considering that the world is on fire, whether that's Assad running off to Russia.
Truly, has no words been meant before. Like, Canada probably does feel like it's living above a meth lab.
Oh, yeah. And then, Trump's response on the U.S. might get out of Ukraine completely. That's a possibility. And then he did say also that tariffs, he can't promise that they're not going to make the price of goods in America go up. Really? Oh, did you just discover that?
Oh, who'd have thought?
Who would have thought? Who could have made him think that?
Tells me? It tells me that somebody made a good enough eye chart or picture.
There had to be
Trump.
There had to been pictures involved.
Because he doesn't do reading. He just does pictures.
I don't know if you heard this or not, but I believe it was one of his old professors had finally passed away, and the kids were cleaning out all of their dad's all their dad's stuff, right? And they came across Trump's IQ score, and it was like a 73. He's borderline. Well,
special needs.
Special needs. We'll call it special needs. I don't even know what to call it anymore. I'm so tired of the idea of not just saying what it is. I mean, if you have a 73 IQ, you're borderline retarded. I mean, that's
the 70s and 80s, and you're talking.
Yeah, it is. And we're going to get to that. That's what this whole show is going to be about. It's going to be about growing up in our generation. We're Gen X, but this isn't about being Gen X necessarily. This is about the things that you remember or the things that come about.
I would love to take an IQ test, actually, just to know what it is.
I'm not even going to tell you what mine was. Me and Dad and me and Dad can never figure out which one it is because neither of us can remember, but one of us had beat the other by 2 points. I'm going to go with Dad beat me by 2 points because I know that Dad was a legit fucking smart person, and I'm just a retard. See, I can put myself down too.
You said it, not me.
So the idea behind this is things that you see as an adult that take you back to a specific point. Specific. It could be your entire life. It could be anywhere in your life. But you and I chose to focus more on late 70s, early 80s, because that was just such a great time. Like late 70s, all through the 80s, that was our time as whether we're preteens or we were actually in our teenage years, but all the way up until 90 essentially. Well, for you it would have been 93 before you hit 20, right? No, that would have been 96.
93 I would have been 16, 17.
Yeah, you would have, yeah. So, I mean, a little bit different perspective from your point of view than my point of view, but I kind of consider this
5 years makes.
It does make a difference.
Yeah.
It does make a difference, but I think that we have a lot of really shared experiences, specifically when you go late 70s, early 80s, all the way up until probably 86, 87. Our shared experience was pretty close. And at that point, that's when I was in high school, and you were in junior high, so it was a little bit different. That was where the big gap between us started. And just not for any dislike of each other, although we didn't like each other at that point. But from the point of view of
we were average teenagers.
I think we were just like any other set of brothers. You know what I mean? Like any other
Really,
siblings.
nowadays you see teenage kids, like siblings that really like each other. You kind of start to wonder.
It spooks me a little bit when you have like a 16 or 17 or 18-year-old, but really it creeps me out when you have like a 13, 14, 15-year-old that really gets along with like their 8, 9-year-old, 10-year-old sibling. I don't know. I don't know if there's something to that or not. Maybe they're the right and we were in the wrong, but I think that we came out better for it because we toughened each other up along the way. Because, I mean, that was the period of time, obviously, where, like, if you got lippy with me, I would just punch you. And and you had a choice.
There came a time, a few times in my late teens where I can think of one in particular.
I can too.
Where you hauled off and hit me, and I just looked at you like, so?
Yeah, I remember that too. I can remember actually a few times that we got into it. But that's not what the show's about. The show's about fond memories that take you back, or when you see it, it just brings you back to a special moment, or a hopefully a good memory, but a memory nonetheless.
But first
we're going to do the news.
We have some news.
All right, let's do the news.
I've got 3 main stories for you, maybe a 4th, depending on how you feel and if you're a good boy.
Oh, well, now I have to be a good boy. Oh, jeez. I got to be on my best behavior. Fuck off.
Russian general calls the U.S. chairman Joint Chief of Staff. This is from the New York Times. And the chief of the general staff of Russia, Valery... blah, 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 blah,
insert Russian name. Yeah.
Sorry if I'm butchering it.
Oh, no, you did.
Had a conversation over the phone with the chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff a day before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
And it was cordial. Apparently, they discussed Russia's missile test that they were about to have. A little bit about Ukraine. Not much is known other than, hey, how you doing?
Yeah. See that? I mean, I appreciate the fact that at least there is communication going on between the U.S. and Russia. I do think that that's a positive thing. It's way better than if no communication happens, because as soon as you lose communication, that's when clearly shit can go very, very sideways. But I don't see that as a big deal. I mean, that should just be in the best interest of both parties.
Yes.
All right, I was a good boy on that. Now, give me my good boy number 2.
Robot rat rolls into play and battle real rodents in a stunning tech breakthrough.
Did the robot rat like kick ass, or I mean, was it like a takedown? Was it this like the WWE of fucking Rat World?
Well, apparently,
are we talking robot wars?
The robot rat was created to help real rats in labs that are by themselves feel better and have companionship.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And play with the rat or return aggressive behavior, because rats do get aggressive. But let's see, where did I see this?
So this is basically a robot rat nanny.
Yeah, basically. The robot rats have similar appearances and movements to the animals, and even some odor. It has become an important tool for exploring individual or collective rats' behavioral responses.
All right, so what happens when one of the live rats tries to fuck the robot rat? Because you know that's coming. Right? Are they gonna put like,
you feeling a little rambunctious, Mr. Rat?
Are they gonna put a little rat pussy in it? Is this gonna turn into, what's that fucking thing called?
Wow. Wow.
Wow. Bow, bow, chicken, bow, bow. What's the the thing? The fucking, you put it in your cock. What is it? You're just letting me hang. I can see you know what I'm talking about. I can tell by your eyes.
No, actually,
we were talking about them as a sponsor. Oh shit. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Wait, describe it again.
It's that fucking jack off cock sleeve thing that you put on your dick. It looks like a flesh colored
Like
thermos.
a fleshlight?
Fleshlight. Thank you. God damn.
Okay.
Yes. Fleshlight. Are they going to make little rat pussy flashlights?
About
Fleshlights?
an inch long.
That's being generous, don't you think? Come on.
Hey, are you saying you've looked at a rat's dong?
No, but I am just going to guess that it's not spectacular. I mean, we're talking a rat. All right, let's put this in perspective. I'm 5'10". The average elephant's dick is in between 5.5 and 6 feet long. That means I am 2 inches shorter than a well-hung elephant. All right? Now, let's just take that down and just do the math. I'm guessing that rat is not an inch long.
You never know.
Hey, if
You're
so,
welcome to look.
Hakuna Matata, motherfucker. Enjoy.
But the rat consists of 2 front arms, which allow the robot to perform various actions.
Yeah. So it's jacking off the rats.
Such as reaching out, touching, or manipulating objects.
Oh, good God.
Moreover, it has a bionic spine, which gives the robot flexibility.
Really? A bionic spine? This almost gets into our territory of the bionic man and the bionic woman.
The flexibility to move in various ways.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You can't even read it, can you? We've gotten to the point. This is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm taking from this conversation right now. And you can change my mind, okay? But what I'm taking from this is essentially we've gotten to the point where we've had to figure out how to jack rats off with a robot so that we can keep them happy.
The lab tech is relieved. What a long day.
My carpal tunnel couldn't take it anymore. My carpal tunnel.
My fingers ready.
Well, they have that for pigs.
Let me lube up.
They have that for pigs, They're called pig jockeys. And their job is to go into the pig pens and get all the male pigs and essentially jerk off the male pigs so that they're not as aggressive. So that's actually a job. Not a job I would want. Okay.
What does the application look like for that?
I don't know, but I'm
Can
guessing
we see your hands.
I'm guessing if there's a drug test, you better be positive. Because you got to be fucking high as a kite to sit around for an 8-hour shift with only a half-hour break for lunch, jacking pigs off all day.
Oh, that begs so many questions.
And yet gives so few answers.
That's right. Moreover, the bionic spine, which gives the robot flexibility to move in a variety of ways, similar to a real rat, it can bend and twist, allowing for natural-looking movements. Hey, big rat.
How you doing, Big Daddy?
Researchers designed the robot with wheels instead of hind legs.
Convenience.
Now, that makes me feel like that is a true rat rod.
It's truly rat fink. That's the true rat fink right there. Oh, God.
Oh, this
is what we've come to. It's what we've come to. Hey, you guys voted for it, motherfuckers. That's going to be literally, it's like my blanket response to everything is you voted for it.
True.
Somebody gets pissed off in line at fucking CVS or whatever. I'm like, hey, you voted for it. Move on. They just stare at me like, what the fuck is the matter with you? I'm just trying
like a French whore. Take it or move along.
Yeah. Let's go.
And in other non-sexual robot rat news.
Oh, God. Is there anything but sexual robot rat news?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes.
I would love to be able to just riddle off robot rat sex news.
That would actually be more fun than the real news by a long shot.
Especially this next one.
Oh, boy.
A Russian warship, fired upon a German helicopter.
Oh. You know what? Actually, probably nothing will come of that. Okay? We've seen this type of thing happen in the past, and nothing really comes out of it. Some people get their hands slapped. You know what I mean? It's handled off like off the media platforms, and that it's one of those things where, you know, whoever was in charge of that ship is probably going to get their hands smacked, and they're going to get a demotion.
No potato for you.
Something like that. You know what I mean? Oh, you go to Ukraine now. Whatever the case may be, but I don't think that it's going to end up amounting to much. You would have to get it where it was like a provable act of aggression, I think. Now, I don't know anything about that story, so it may have.
Yeah, it just says here that the crew of the Russian ship fired signal ammunition at the Russian or the German helicopter, saying either vacate or else.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a little bit different too. I mean, again, if it's non-lethal rounds, what are you laughing at?
Fire the robot rats at them.
Fire the robot rats at them. If it's non-lethal, let them get a handy from a robot rat. All right.
By the way, last week we talked about the robot that convinced the other AI robots to come back to its place.
Yeah.
I've got video.
Oh,
I'll
no.
have to send it to you.
Okay.
Of it actually happening. Security video.
So we do have a follow-up.
Realizing something was wrong because the robots were not charging in their actual area and went looking for them. And it definitely looked like one of those porn gangbangs, you know, the one little robot surrounded by a bunch of larger.
Kind of a Pied Piper. the St. Patrick of fucking AI robots.
You ever see the picture of the five dudes surrounding Piper Perry, the porn star? It's a big meme.
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing.
All right. Well, maybe you can send me that picture too, because I'm not familiar with that.
Picture or video?
Let's go with video. Let's go video.
I'm going to replace Piper with a robot rat. And in the fourth bit of news, a drone sighting reported over New Jersey, and now the FBI is involved.
Yeah, so X, Twix, Twitter blew up with that story. Everyone's saying that it was, you know, UAP. Some of the pictures, some of the video, maybe. I mean,
by the way, you brought up X, and I caught a news story online off of Facebook where the publication refers to Elon as Egon. And someone got very upset in the comments and was like, stop referring to Elon as Egon. It's disrespectful. Or is this just a typo? And the publication wrote back, no, it was on purpose.
You go fuck yourself. Good. You know what? See, that's the thing is now that he is considered a right-wing darling, which
have you noticed that since the election, there's more stories and footage of Trump and Elon, and Vance has disappeared.
I haven't seen anything about Vance. I saw his
nothing.
name. I've seen his name mentioned maybe twice. Maybe.
Yeah.
I know once for a fact I saw his name in like the headline. I'm not talking about being mentioned in the body of a story or whatever. But as far as headlines go, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's all Elon and Donnie.
Just two of them.
And Elon is kind of stealing the thunder here.
Yeah.
But what's interesting,
it makes you wonder, could Trump be trying to, would it even be possible to try to replace Vance?
No, I don't think he has any interest in doing that. I think Vance is a useful idiot for him. A very useful, because he's smart. JD Vance, you can say whatever you want. He's not a stupid man. Okay. And when I use the term useful idiot, I mean, he is caught up in this idea of what's going on. But you could argue the same of Elon. So here we're talking one of the smartest and richest men on the planet, and he's caught up in it. So that makes you wonder, are we wrong? Which I still don't think so. Or are they just so enamored with the idea of getting rid of regulations so that they can continue to increase their profitability. That's the only reason I see Elon involved at all. I think Trump is Elon's useful idiot. I do. I think Trump is impressed by the fact that Elon is as rich as he is and as successful as he is. And even though Elon is quirky in many ways, I think Trump looks at him and goes, well, I admire the fact that you walked in, bought Twitter, and laid off 80% of your fucking staff, and you're still running. I think he looks at that as, this is impressive. So what could you, if you did that with Twitter, what could you do with the U.S. government as far as the bureaucracy and the deep state? And I do think that he thinks that Elon and Vivek are going to be able to get about $2 trillion cut from the budget. I don't think that that's true by any stretch of the imagination. And the vast majority of economists have said that it's impossible because of what is, when you look at the budget, if you got rid of every human resource, like every human resource, that only accounts for, I think they said 15% of the total budget, and it does nothing. I mean, that means you've literally just fired everyone that works in the government, everyone, right? That isn't an elected official. Aside from elected officials, everyone in the government is fired. It doesn't get you to $2 trillion. It doesn't even get you close.
Nope.
The vast majority of that issue is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the military budget. Now, I could be misspeaking here, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. So I think at the end of the day, the reason why Elon is being allowed to overstay his welcome, because he's definitively overstayed his welcome at Mar-a-Lago, at least with staffers. Staffers have nothing they want to do with Elon anymore, because they're basically taking orders from him as if he's Donald Trump, and they don't like it. They don't like it one bit. But that's where it's like, okay, well, this is what you guys wanted. Let's see how it works. Let's see what happens. Go ahead. Just, in fact, I tell you what, why don't you cut $2 trillion from the budget by doing it dartboard style? You divide a dartboard up into all the different departments, put a number on each of those departments, how much you want to cut them, start throwing darts. Those ones, that's what they get. Sorry, you got to go. But we're in charge of nuclear weapons. Well, we don't need you anymore.
It's just a big pie chart with a spinner in the middle.
It kind of is, I think. I mean, why not? I mean, like literally at this point, why not? Why not? Why not just roll the dice and see what happens?
All right, departments. It is right foot blue circle.
Mm-hmm. Twister. And that brings us into fond childhood memories.
Yes.
Now, to be specific, you were the one that came up with this idea, so I want you to define it for the audience.
Just a song, a movie, TV show, a commercial, anything that draws your memory back to a certain time or place.
All right.
Hopefully something positive.
Why don't you go ahead and start, since it was your topic?
Well, the first one that brought this to mind when talking to you was I heard a Billy Joel song. The song is Just the Way You Are, and it's the opener, the electric piano. I told myself I would research to figure out what instrument it actually is, but I didn't do that because I forgot. But it's the electric piano at the beginning that is just, it. To me, it symbolizes in sound that late 70s, very early 80s music of that time.
So here's
just that signature sound that's like, oh, okay, I know exactly what era this is from.
So here's the thing. How would you have been exposed to that? I'll tell you. About the time that you're talking about, right? Again, 5 years age difference between the two of us.
Yes.
When I was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, I got a record player. It was one of those weird, shitty orange.
Yep.
Right?
I remember it.
You remember it?
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't have any records. Mom bought the fucking record player, or auntie, or whoever, however I got this thing. I have no fucking idea who.
I think it was at a garage sale.
Might have been. That was big. That was a big thing. So
I do remember, like, I got this record player after you got something better, but the needle on it was so damaged that if you put a record on and played it, it would not only skip, but it would probably destroy the record.
Oh yeah. So I got that, and I didn't have anything to listen to, and our babysitter at the time, well, mine at the time, because you were yet to exist at that moment, had seen this and knew that I liked watching the Monkees on TV. So they always had the Monkees on 4:30 in the afternoon on, whatever odd station. And so she had the album, and she brought that album. I don't think she intended for me to keep it, but I kept it. I mean, and I think the reason why she let me keep it is she saw me playing this album and just laying by the record player, playing it over and over and over again from beginning to end, and I would fall asleep listening to it, right? Whether that was, Last Train to Clarksville, Pleasant Valley Sunday, the Monkees theme song, the list goes on. And then about 2 years later, our next door neighbors sold their house, and a new set of neighbors moved in. And this was my first experience with that ever happening as a child. And what was interesting about it wasn't the fact that happened. It was that I had spent so much of my childhood in that house that I remember when I first got invited back into it once the new neighbors had moved in, I was a little bit freaked out because it was the same house in many ways.
It's different stuff.
But everyone else's stuff was, all the stuff was different, right? So anyways, the kid that moved in there that was close to my age, he was like a year and a half, 2 years older than me. He shows me his album collection. And he didn't have many, but the only one that he was really proud of, and he's like, oh, if you listen to nothing else, listen to this, was Billy Joel Glass Houses. And that...
I remember the cover.
Yeah. That, for me, takes me back to being 7 years old in our next door neighbor's house. I can still, right to this moment, visualize it. Fast forward to the next time me and Mom are at a record store, because Mom had gotten into the habit of allowing me to buy 45s, right? So I got in a couple of 45s or whatever, and then here's this fucking Glass Houses album. I'm like begging for it. I'm like, you can take all the 45s, put them back. Let me get this album, right? This is supposed to be an amazing album, right? And it was absolutely amazing. It changed. I'm to this day.
If I remember right, that's you may be right on it.
Yep. And that made me a Billy Joel fan from the age of 7 years old till this day. Still a huge Billy Joel fan. And the thing that's interesting about that, though, is that led to additional 45s, because the one thing that Mom was not hip on or didn't really particularly care for were full albums. She wanted us to kind of pick the 45s because you could get you could get them. If you bought 3, they were like $1 a piece or something like that at Harmony House, right? It was a better value, right? You get like 3 for $5 or something like that, right? And she was willing to do that, but she wasn't really willing to spend $13 to $20 on a full album. But she'd be like, yeah, pick 3 45s. So I had a shit ton of 45s.
Mm-hmm.
And in that group would have been She's Got Away. And I'm quite sure that is probably how it came to you. Because a lot of my 45s and a lot of my albums
Yeah. So I remember I got it from you, obviously, but it was a 45 of Kraftwerk.
Kraftwerk?
Kraftwerk.
What's the song?
The song was Calculator, Pocket Calculator.
Really? I don't even remember that.
Yeah, maybe I got it. I'm not sure where, but in retrospect, having a Kraftwerk album, or 45, I should say, at that age is really weird, like looking back, because they're such an eclectic group from Germany German people out there, hell yeah, I know Kraftwerk. I grew up listening to them.
I just don't remember the song or and I might have, because when you inherited all of my music, all of my 45s and whatever albums I had, was when the Columbia House Music Club came into play. And for me, that was somewhere around 8, 9 years old, maybe 10.
Oh, I'm sorry, Columbia House. I owe you a lot of money.
I still do too. I had set it up
I
with
think everybody does.
I set it up at one point where I had 3 different accounts under different names.
Yeah, I did that myself. They probably looked at that address and were like, here we go again.
Oh, they were vicious about collection though. They really tried. Really? Oh yeah. Yeah. There were plenty of times where I got my ass chewed by mom because I didn't send the shit back quick enough or didn't tell her that I had it. Oh yeah. Right. So that was where I got turned on to Rush, because there was a song, and I thought, Moving Pictures. And I thought the song Moving Pictures was Rush, or not Rush, a different band. And I just saw the title of the album, and it was Rush Moving Pictures. And I just made a mistake. Ended up loving it. But that was when everything started going to cassettes. So you ended up in kind of like default inheriting all my 45s and my albums, and I was just collecting cassette after cassette after cassette. And then you would get involved in that too. Obviously you started becoming more involved in music than I did at that point.
I can remember the first probably 4 or 5 records, 45s, that I listened to at that time, which were Kraftwerk. The second one was, actually, I can think of 5 or 6. Electric Avenue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can tell you the story of that one. I can tell you the story of that one.
I remember Queen of Hearts by Juice Newton.
Oh, yeah. I had that too. Yeah. Those were all mine.
And then I just had them in my head. Juice Newton, Queen of Hearts. Another one, Bites the Dust by Queen.
Yep.
And Supertramp.
Every one of those I brought into the house, whether I should have or not. And most of that I don't remember. I remember Queen. I remember having the Juice Newton one. I don't know how I ended up with that though. I don't think I bought that.
I don't know, but that song is etched in my memory.
And the Kraftwerk one, I don't think I bought that one, but I ended up acquiring it somehow. And again, that could have been at a garage sale or some shit. I have no idea.
Just growing up, nobody I knew who Kraftwerk was. So everybody always thought I was crazy. And where did you get this? I don't know. But it's fun to listen to. It's weird.
See, that was the whole experience, though, is like you'd get the 13. It was either 9 or 13. I think it was 13, wasn't it? 13 cassettes for a penny. And then you had to buy, and then you had to buy 9 in the next 3 years or something, or the next 2 years. And
when I did it, it was like 20 cassettes.
Okay. So they did change it. They did change it. I know it was lower and you didn't get as many when I started, but they did change it and you got more and more and more. Those motherfuckers though, they made it. I guess they basically raped the artists on that. It was like the Spotify of the time or some shit where, like they weren't making anything
the
off
Napster,
of it.
If you will.
Yeah, the Napster. That's a better example.
The early 2000s.
Yeah. But that was kind of like the soundtrack for me. Then I don't know how that happened, but so I continued to listen to Billy Joel all the way through. I continued to listen to Queen all the way through. I got turned on to Rush. I got turned on to, obviously, we went through The Foreigner and all that stuff too during that period of time. Not that I never had any of their, I don't think I did. I might have had 1 or 2 cassettes. I don't know. But going through that whole period of time, that was the experience. You know what I mean? That was absolutely what you were looking for. I remember I was in high school and Billy Joel came out with The Bridge, I think it was. And the first song on that was Running on Ice. And it's got a very, very fast, almost comically fast intro, right? And I bought it at the school bookstore, of all places.
Really?
Yeah. and I put it in. I had a tape deck in the car, and popped it in, and I thought it was fucked up. I thought there was a problem with it. I popped it out, expecting to see my cassette tape all chewed up, and being out the $14 or whatever, and it was fine. And I rewound it, played it again, and it did the same thing, and then it went into the song, and it was fine. And I just remember thinking, oh, that is so clever to make you think you fucked up a tape so that you got to take it back in or go buy a new one.
2 instances of that I remember of. One is a band called Typo Negative. I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah.
Love them. On their first CD, there's a track in the middle called Silence and Its Disastrous Consequences, and it's nothing. It's just silence for like 6 minutes.
Wow. That takes some.
Which is, yeah, it's really funny. And it's just their sense of humor.
But
Two,
go ahead.
Is Pink Floyd Animals.
Yes.
Particularly the 8-track and cassette.
Yeah.
Because when listening to it, the song Pigs comes on and abruptly stops in the middle of the song, and you have to flip it to continue the song on the other side.
Yeah. Which I thought was actually kind of clever. I thought that was annoying.
That's awesome.
It was a little bit annoying.
Convincing did they have to make, I know a record label that this seems weird, but it'll be cool, a little trippy.
Yeah. I think at that point, though, they had enough clout that record companies like, all right, well, if you say so. It's kind of like once Bohemian Rhapsody was released, they were like, yeah, all right, fine, fuck it. If that's what you want to do it.
Well, that's Queen. I'm talking Pink.
No, I know, but I'm just saying in the same sense. I fully recognize they're two different bands.
Make it fair. Make it fair.
But that's my point, though, is like at that point, if I'm not mistaken, clearly, like Dark Side was already out and all that from Pink Floyd. Yeah. So why not just let them do what they want to do? Because when we fought them before, we were wrong. Same with Queen. They tried to fight him on that and then realized that they were wrong. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of just on the next album go, well, fuck, we were wrong before. So just go do, be you. And if there's a real big problem, we'll talk. All right. So that's kind of like the music and like each of those, specifically if you get into like the Monkees and Billy Joel and some older Bryan Adams, some Pink Floyd, some of the quirkier stuff like Kraftwerk. Some of the quirkier stuff. All those things take me back to being anywhere from 7 to 10, 12 years old. And just either being like in the wintertime, being in the front room, and which was a place we didn't spend much time in, but that's where the stereo was. And just waiting for the sun go down. You'd just be listening to music and it'd continuously get darker and darker and darker in that room. And then you'd like, then dad would come home, the lights would go on, the kitchen would be all lit up and all that shit. But it was one of those things where it was like, those were peaceful times. Like for a kid to be able to just sit and play music. And music that they enjoy, not that's
not what I ended up listening to.
Not well, yeah, but music that you're enjoying, it had a comfort to it. It had a cozy comfort to it. And then like even when you get into like I was in I think 6th grade when like Quiet Riot came out. Well, then you just could not help but be going, oh my god, this is fucking amazing. You're in 6th grade.
I instantly remember whenever I hear Quiet Riot, I think back to, I think it was you. I had to pick out an alarm clock as a kid to wake me up. And you're like, pick that one. It's playing your favorite song, which was Quiet Riot. And so that's the one I chose. Had it for probably
Did it have,
15.
Which one did it have? Come on, Feel the Noise or Bang Your Head?
Come on, Feel the Noise.
Okay. Yeah, it was a great song.
Come on, Feel the Noise.
Yeah, it just takes
great album.
Takes you back
still to this day.
Yeah, it's one of those albums. It's much like Appetite for Destruction, right? Or Nirvana, Teen Spirit. It was a defining album. Pyromania, was a defining album. These were albums that if you did not have them, Slippery When Wet, if you did not have them, you didn't, even if you didn't like the musicians, you had to have these albums. And the reason you had to have them was because everybody had them. And everyone knew all of the lyrics on all of the songs. I mean, we were fortunate to grow up in a pretty musically intelligent area. And I mean, you know, you can always say Detroit Rock City. That's true. But when you get into Detroit Rock City suburbs, not always the case. But we were fortunate. We were one of the suburbs that did, actually. And it makes you, again, we've talked about this before, it makes you realize that we were very fortunate as children. We were definitively on the side of spoiled, because whether it was you or me that got the toy or got the album or got whatever, there was a shared ownership, whether I wanted it to be or not, and whether you wanted it to be or not. So I think that's kind of how mom and dad were able to get away with it, where they knew at some point that this would be a shared thing, you know, whether that was a, you know, Hot Wheels racetrack or whether that was Star Wars figures. It all came back to, they knew that at some point the two of us would be participating in this particular thing together. And that was pretty much the case all the way up until I was about 13 years old. We definitively had a shared ownership. You would get pissed because you would fucking break everything, but you destructive son of a bitch.
You don't want me to play with this?
All right. There we go. Oh, it's a shame. You're a collector's item?
Head popped on.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Hey, look at the Darth Vader with the red slide out sword and the Boba Fett with the launch missile. Yeah, those are gone.
Oh, I replaced Vader's red saber with Luke's green.
Yeah.
My bad.
Oops. Where are we going to find that red one? Where are we going to find it, Steve? Is it going to be under my bed? Is it going to be under my pillow? Where are we going to find it?
Will it be in my nose?
A lot of things ended up there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways.
I will say I wanted to bridge into, at a young age, we got cable TV.
Which was the greatest thing ever.
Yes. Yes. Many hijinks over the cable TV.
And that was back when the porn was scrambled, but
scrambled, like
not scrambled solid. Well. So you never knew if you were jacking off to an elbow or an asshole. Didn't matter. Didn't matter. I think I saw a nipple. Could have been the guys. Could have been the chicks. I don't care.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't care.
But the opener, 8:00 movie on HBO, always an event.
Yeah.
And they had the special opener every 8:00 movie of the cityscape, that it would swoop down the camera.
Yep.
And you'd hear that do 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 do.
Yep.
So when I hear that,
it was an event.
Yeah, it was. It was an event. So that's one of those things that pulls me back in time. But I remember I was probably in middle school, homesick. And we all know the dredge that is daytime TV at that time.
No, it was horrible. It was almost, it almost wasn't worth staying home unless you were so fucking sick that there was just no way. And I would get so fucking sick that there was no way often as a child because of the asthma and that. But man, I got to the point where it was like, I just don't even want to be here. There's nothing to do. You couldn't even watch TV until 3:30.
Well, during the daytime, I fell in love with 3 shows, 3 guilty pleasures, all because I was homesick and it just happened to come on. It was not a soap opera or news or like QVC or some other old person TV show. But the 3 that come to mind that always pull me back, MASH, Gunsmoke, and Bonanza.
Okay, so
to
that
this day, I love those.
Yeah, so all 3 of those were not in reruns when I would have been about the age that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I had I Love Lucy, The Honeymooners, and Bill Kennedy at the movies.
That damn Bill Kennedy. This is the third week.
Yeah, but he keeps popping up, man. I mean, look, we got to keep Bill Kennedy's legacy alive. That motherfucker got me through a lot of sick days.
At the movie.
He got me through more sick days than Gary Gnu did.
This is the news with Gary Gnu.
The Great Space Coaster. All right, so like movies that were influential, and I'm gonna just rail these off, right? Because I spent a lot of time thinking about these.
I've got a few that you probably do not have.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, Die Hard, Terminator, Top Gun, Star Wars, Back to the Future, Blade Runner, Ghostbusters, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm going to say Caddyshack, but I didn't see it in the theater. I don't think. I think I saw that later on cable. Tootsie, Running Scared.
Tootsie. Running Scared. Fantastic movie.
I saw that probably more. I saw that movie because that was at a time where I was in high school. It was probably 10th, 11th grade, right? And I had a buddy of mine that had a car. And because he had a really cool car, he had a Camaro, and we were friends, all the girls wanted to go and do something with us. We probably took, I don't know, I saw that movie at least 5 or 6 times, and never with the same 2 girls. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Nice.
I would say Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines probably got me a little more action than I deserved at that age. The Breakfast Club. I'll never forget seeing that in the theater. Platoon, I did not see in the theater, but it was of that era and spoken of highly. Rain Man, I remember. Nightmare on Elm Street, we've talked about my experience with that. Princess Bride and Labyrinth. Those were 2 huge ones, man. Labyrinth, yeah. I cannot look back at Labyrinth, which I liked the movie to begin with, but you remember my buddy Todd who passed, right?
Yeah.
All right, so I was in, I don't know, 10th, 11th grade, and he had graduated and was going to the community college, and he was part of their theater program because that's how we met, was in the theater at high school. And the one class that he was taking was stage makeup, right? So somehow or another, he gets this picture of David Bowie, right? Now, there's 2 things that happened here. There were two major things, right? The first one was the midterm, and the second was the finale, or the finals, right? So for the midterm, you had to do a full makeup on somebody. And he turned me into David Bowie from Labyrinth.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, actually. I mean, like, I felt a little weird about it at the time, but it was like, you couldn't deny he wasn't a professional, but for a college project, if you knew the movie, you knew what I was made up to be, right? But the other thing that he did, and we kind of did this as a prank, and that's why every time I see Labyrinth or hear about Labyrinth, I think about this. The other one was you had to do a realistic wound, right?
Yeah, I remember that too, actually, on your arm.
Yeah, on my arm.
Yeah.
That's funny that you... I'm funny. I'm shocked you remember that.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
All right, so this is going on while the musical was going on. So everyone's getting in, we're all, I was, for the listener, I was heavily involved in backstage. I was one of the lead people for lights, sound, any special effects that went on, any testing of special effects that we did. I was a part of that. I was part of my main role was making sure that students knew how to build the sets to spec, because we built them to a higher spec. So I was very, very involved with the adults who had over-engineered the sets so that no one could get hurt. And they explained to me the building processes that needed to be done. And then I would make sure anyone that was working on that trailer or that truck knew exactly how to get that where it needed to be. And if they had any questions about, like, if they hadn't run a saw, if they hadn't run a drill, if they hadn't run any power tools at all, I trained them. I would make sure that they were safe. And I just kind of oversaw anything that was going on with building. So that was one of the main things, right? So I come backstage and I decided I'm going to play a joke. And I did this to like 4 or 5 girls. And I did it kind of like more in the dark area. And I'm like, I just caught myself on a nail. Can you look at this and tell me if it looks bad? And I had a ripped shirt, right? And I would just peel it back a little bit. And the freak out sessions until I went, no, I'm just kidding. Look, I got hit. I got slapped. I got motherfucked. It was worth it, but that's my memory of those things. Like that's my fond memory of it. And I think that people need to take a little bit of time and reflect on fond memories like that, because that's your legacy.
Your legacy is a wounded arm backstage.
Well, yeah.
Oh, does this look infected?
Yeah, I mean, it really, that's kind of what it was.
For me, some of the movies that draw me back, obviously the Star Wars, Indiana Jones.
God damn, those take, I don't know about you, but those like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, I mean, I can sit back and if I think hard enough, I can picture Uncle Joe's hat and his jacket as he was walking into the theater in Rochester. I can picture,
fedora. His plaid fedora.
Yeah, his plaid fedora. And I can picture him going in. I can picture Dad with the poor boy hat going in. And I picture us going in. I can remember the level of excitement that this was finally happening. And it was from really, really, I think from Empire forward. Because Star Wars just took us all by storm. I mean, we weren't expecting that. And then it became like, oh, the second one's coming out. It's going to be a Christmas release. I don't think Star Wars, I mean, it was May 4th. It was a summer blockbuster. It wasn't a Christmas blockbuster.
No, it wasn't.
But then, if I'm not mistaken, Raiders of the Lost Ark was, I think. Right? And I could be wrong on that. I mean, unless you know exactly different.
I know for a fact that Temple of Doom, I remember I think it was Burger King had a tie-in with toys and the flimsy plastic records that had a booklet with it.
I remember those.
Temple of Doom. And yeah, I remember sitting in the bathroom at Auntie's with that little record player listening over and over again, the Temple of Doom little record thing.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. But movie-wise, like I said, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, but I also have on there Monster Squad. Do you remember Monster Squad?
Vaguely.
You might have been too old.
Vaguely.
It's like, I don't even know how to describe it. A group of kids fighting Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Mummy, the Wolfman, trying to end a curse. Great movie. Still love it to this day. The Last Starfighter.
Oh, I remember that.
Great movie. Every time I see it where it's available streaming, I have to watch. But it pulls me back to those HBO afternoons.
Firefox.
Yeah.
How many times did we watch Firefox?
Too many.
Yeah, and it's a horrible movie. But
it is.
It was like at that point the morning and afternoon run was, I don't know, was it 4-hour turnaround or it had to have been a 6-hour turnaround?
I was about to say between 4 and 6 hours.
Right.
Somewhere in that.
Because you would see, like, if you got up,
you would see the new movie at the 8 p.m. premiere,
right,
with a special entrance, and then the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning it would be on regularly.
And then like 4 hours later, 6 hours later, it'd be on again, and then it'd just be in that regular rotation until you just were ready to vomit. Well, there was the other one, and it wasn't Buckaroo Banzai, but you remembered it last time I brought it up, with the dark-headed guy.
Dark-headed guy.
Yeah, he had dark hair. Remo Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Remo Williams.
Right. That was another one that they just beat us over the head with. That, and then what was the one with Lou Gossett Jr.?
Alienation?
No. It was the one that had the Queen soundtrack to it. Iron Eagle?
Oh, yes. I saw that in the theater, actually.
Oh, did you? Do you remember us getting beat to death with that one?
Yeah, he took me for my birthday and friends to go see Iron Eagle because I was all about that movie.
Yeah.
But also a cult classic to this day. Thank you, Barry Gordy, for this beautiful movie.
Iron Dragon.
No, close. The Last Dragon.
Last Dragon.
Yeah.
Last Dragon. We watched that.
Love that movie.
With that dude with the black dude with the huge hair. That Shonuff.
Who the baddest? Shonuff.
Yeah, we watched that endlessly. All right, so now I guess the question becomes
Bruce Leroy.
I forgot about
Love that movie.
Bruce Leroy. All right, so we're already at an hour.
Bullets with his teeth.
Show enough. So we're already at an hour, but I do want to get into some of the TV shows and some of the
commercials.
We're going to save the commercials for last because those are the best, in my opinion. But I'm just going to rattle off a few and see if any of these stick with you. All right, and I'll come back. I mean, these are going to stick with you because we used to all sit around. You know what I mean? Like that. Those days are. I don't know if they still exist.
Sit around, laying underneath the entertainment table, the game table.
Yep,
as it was called.
Yep, we'd be laying underneath it and just
like a little prison.
Yeah, and have the cushions
peeking out from underneath.
Yep, but it was our little safe spaces. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm going to just rattle these off. I know you're going to be totally on board with most of these, but this was a time, and like I said, I don't know that this time exists, and maybe it does with some families, but I doubt it with all of the electronics and gadgets and iPads and phones and laptops and streaming. Like, I don't think it exists the same way it did before, because when we were growing up, especially in the early to mid 80s, if you missed that show, you were not going to see it unless you got lucky on a rerun. That was it.
Really lucky.
And you had to get really lucky, or you had to wait for syndication.
Yeah, they would have the season play out, and then when it ended, they would have a gap of basically random shit during the spring. But in the summer, they would rerun the previous season.
Right.
And that was your rerun.
That was your chance.
You had to wait 6 months.
At least. And even at that, it was going during the summer. There was a chance you might not, you might not be home because you guys, we were on vacation or going camping or, any number of reasons why, you're playing with your fucking friends and that starts at 8. But there was that period of time where it was truly kind of like this must-see TV thing. You had like Cheers, The Cosby Show, Family Ties, Full House, The Golden Girls. I remember watching all of these as a family. The four of us just plopped down waiting for the cat.
Cosby Show.
Yeah, waiting for Lucky the cat to finally make it into the room and then blast ass, and that was it. We all had to go to bed because the cat had bowel problems. You had, the dramas like Miami Vice, Hill Street Blues, Dynasty, Magnum PI, and Dallas. We got really lucky because our family was not into dramas. We didn't watch.
It was
any of
the
that.
A-Team, MacGyver.
Right. That's what we got to watch. You had Knight Rider, A-Team, MacGyver. That's what we were watching. And then even they were still into, fortunately mom was into sci-fi. Dad, I don't think really got it, but he didn't give a fuck. So like Star Trek, Twilight Zone, shit like that. But the one that brings me back, and I'm just diverting from the list real quick, because the cartoons were like Transformers, He-Man, and Masters of the Universe, the Smurfs. I first realized that a guy I was going to school with wasn't quite right and probably was gay when I was invited to his house and saw his Smurf collection. Now, that's not what tipped me off the most, but
I was going to say, what did the Smurfs ever do to you? Did they Smurf you?
No. But he was. So there was a guy I grew up with that was massively into Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I can't remember his last name, and I wouldn't say it anyway, but I do remember now. His first name was Eric, right? And he was one of the square kind of head people, right?
What a blockhead.
Yeah, he was a blockhead, right? Very Frankensteinian. And I was friends with him. Yeah, he was a good dude. And he had a massive, unbelievably organized and cataloged. Yeah, I mean, that's how hardcore he was. He had in his own writing, in his own penmanship, his own handwriting, he had listed every Star Wars character that he owned every craft, it didn't matter what it was. It was all cataloged, and then he had the list of what he had yet to get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I went there, and he was creepy because he was so obsessive about how he would play. Like, he wanted to keep everything perfect, right? And if you bent a Star Wars character wrong or used it in a way he didn't like, he'd take it from you and he'd put it on its stand. Like, he had the stands. Yeah, like that's how obsessive, right? And they were all in his closet, right? So he had this huge layout in his closet. And it was just fucking weird.
Sheldon Cooper.
Fast forward, so that's like second, third, maybe fourth grade, right? Fast forward to sixth or seventh grade, I get invited to this new kid who moved in to the neighborhood. I'm trying to be friends with him because he's a new kid, right? I was always the guy that was like, okay, you're a new kid, come on, let's be friends. I go there, and it wasn't his obscenely massive Smurf collection. And when I say mass, I'm talking 200, 300, 400 different Smurfs.
I didn't even know there were that many.
I didn't either. It was the fact that he insisted that we play Smurfs while listening to Olivia Newton-John's Xanadu. That was when I said, enough's enough. I'm going to ride my bike.
I cannot take
I can't do it.
Olivia Newton-John.
I cannot do it.
I cannot do it, sir.
I'm sorry.
Good day, sir.
See, now this is another thing. Like, you had the game shows too. So you had like Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. Wheel of Fortune, I always felt like I didn't have to be smart for. It was like, oh, I can just be dunced out and stupid. Jeopardy, Dad really liked us watching that because he felt that it educated us. And I'm sure it did. And then you had, obviously, the Tonight Show with Carson, and you had Saturday Night Live. Now, I used to like Carson because...
Carson was such a different animal.
Totally. But what was nice is, and I don't know if they did it with you or if you had any interest, but I do remember watching it with you, the Tonight Show.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, we had to watch it on the black and white TV upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to do it in either your bedroom or my bedroom. But we were allowed to watch Carson at least until like midnight or something like that. But I always pushed because there were always going to be comedians. And I was like, I got to see the comedian, Dad. I got to see the comedian. And I think at that point, they started to recognize that I had an interest in stand-up and I had an interest in comedy. And if they didn't, they were fucking blind, deaf, and dumb. There was just no two ways about it. Like, there was a very clear path from being 2-3 years old, watching in their bedroom, black and white, Abbott and Costello, all the way through. Like, I didn't care as long as I could see it. It didn't matter if it was in color. I mean, great, preferred, but I was like, all I need I need that input. And it was always comedic. Like, it was always comedic.
I remember seeing ZZ Top on Carson. It was their television debut. And it stuck out to me because they actually screwed up live on TV. ZZ Top, that is. And he came in to sing, Billy Gibbons, I do believe. And he took a step back and restarted the song. And as he described it, like later on, I read it, but as I saw it online and was like, oh, I remember this because I was all about ZZ Top as a kid.
Yeah, I can tell by your current day beard.
Yeah. But I found it interesting. So I was like, oh, that's right. They screwed up on live TV in their debut. And Billy Gibbons says, yeah, I'm not proud of that. I tried to start the song and sing and then had to restart because it is absolutely shocking when a horn section appears where you're not used to a horn section. It threw me off.
That's funny.
Because Doc Severinsen
was there, yeah.
Orchestra, yeah. And
people don't realize, I've heard this argument that the 80s was the worst time for music, and I'm going to disagree with that, okay?
Oh, I wholeheartedly disagree.
I think it's one of the best times. I would put the 80s and the late 60s together.
Okay.
The late 60s, I would say from like 65, I would even go up to 71, 72, okay?
Each decade, I'm the music nerd.
Well, the 70s, though, man, with all the disco, I mean, not even that I'm against the disco, But, when you got a song called
For me,
Muskrat Love.
Disco. For me, the 70s, late 70s, it's all punk rock. The anti-disco revolution.
Late 70s, exactly. Late 70s it was, but there was a really bad period where we had to watch Dance Fever with our babysitters. Remember that?
The Midnight Special.
Yeah, we had to watch fucking Dance Fever. We had to watch, there was one other show, I don't remember what it was. And then it was like, okay, now we're stuck with Love Boat.
Solid Gold?
Solid Gold, that was it.
Yeah.
You had Dance Fever and Solid Gold, and then it
the
went
only thing
right into...
that was the Solid Gold dancers, the chicks.
Yeah, they were hot most of the time. But then it would go into Love Boat and Fantasy Island. And it was just like every time you had a babysitter, because it was always Saturday night, and it was, all right, we're stuck with this. But what we did have before they would get there is Leonard Nimoy In Search Of.
Yeah, In Search Of.
That was one of my favorite shows as a kid. I loved In Search Of. And I loved it for two reasons. One, I was like, oh my God, Spock doesn't have pointy ears. And the other reason was it was always a little bit scary, but not scary enough to frighten you,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, let's go back real quick and then we'll hit commercials because we're already over time.
You can't forget Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, that was another one.
Robert Stack.
Yes. I mean, these were like, how do you not love this shit? You know what I mean? It's like,
you just felt like if ever you had a life running commentary on your life, if you heard Robert Stack's voice, you're like, oh shit, shit's about to go down.
Yeah. I mean, and when all that stuff went away, it was about the same time that pointed jarts went away, and they did the rounded heavy bottom ones instead, and it was like, oh, you guys, you just ruined
the two narrators in my life that I can hear their voices clear as day and remember. It's Robert Stack and Palance, Jack Palance.
Jack Palance, oh my God.
It or not.
Yeah, Jack Palance.
I don't want to believe it. I don't.
It's too bad. You have to believe it or not.
No.
Well, then don't believe it. All right. Now I want to go back to the music because this has always pissed me off. Even if you don't like the artists that I'm going to say, their impact and their influence on the music industry. This is all out of the 80s. Michael Jackson, 1982. Thriller. Everyone knew that you had to be home to watch
album.
the premiere at 7 p.m., I think it was, on MTV. Yep. Madonna, Like a Virgin. I can still remember her performing that. Prince, Purple Rain. 1984 Purple Rain, right? Mm-hmm. The movie and the soundtrack, fuck you, one of the best. Whitney Houston, Cyndi Lauper, The Police. I mean, and while that was all going on, all right, like you could drop Cyndi Lauper out of it, but she was huge back then.
Well, no, Cyndi Lauper, like I only knew her because she had Captain Lou Albano,
right,
a wrestling manager, in her video, and then that was a bleed over to the world of wrestling for me,
right?
So I felt like there was a justification to listen to her because she had some kind of affiliation with wrestling.
Yeah, which gave her street cred in your eye.
And watching her take a boot from Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
You almost felt, well, it was meant to make you feel sorry for her. But
1987, U2, With or Without You, from Joshua Tree.
Joshua Tree, yeah.
I'm not a big Springsteen
Ramone,
fan.
When he died, he left this world listening to two albums, Joshua Tree and Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys.
Oh, no shit. That's interesting.
That was what he wanted to listen to as he passed away.
I'm not a big Bruce fan. I know that, a lot of people would hate me for not saying that I don't love Springsteen. I don't hate him. I don't hate Springsteen. I just don't.
I'm not a big fan of that.
I'm not a big fan. But Dancing in the Dark, Glory Days, Born in the USA, 1984. Bon Jovi, 86, You Give Love a Bad Name, and Living on a Prayer. Journey, Don't Stop Believing, 1981. Appetite for Destruction, 1987. New Wave, you got your Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, Human League, Tears for Fears, Aha. Hip Hop, Run DMC, revolutionized hip hop with Walk This Way.
1984, Van Halen.
1984, Van Halen. Public Enemy, Fight for the Power, Become Salt and
Did you
Pepper.
almost say Public Enema?
I might have, because I used to say that all the time, so it might have been just a Freudian slip. Public Enemy, not Enema. Fight the Power. Salt and Pepper, Push It.
Oh, yep.
Push it. Push it real good. That was like all over the place.
Yeah, that song got banned because people assumed it was about sex when it was actually about dancing.
Yep. Well, we can't forget that this was also during the time that people were freaking out about music. Yeah. This wasn't, I don't think we weren't quite to the NPAA rule or the music ruling.
Because the PMRC.
Yeah, we weren't there yet. That came under
all a part of the whole satanic panic.
Yeah, that
the 80s.
That was, well, no, but what was the adult advisory label? That was Tipper Gore.
Yeah, the PMRC.
Was that part of it? Okay.
Head of the PMRC, yeah.
You got Janet Jackson. She came out in 86 with Nasty and What Have You Done For Me Lately? Shaka Khan, I Feel For You, 1984. I mean, even, you still had in the early 80s ABBA coming out with some stuff. Gloria Estefan, 85. The Rhythm's Gonna Get You. Donna Summer, 83. She Works Hard for the Money. That doesn't even
Lionel
include...
Richie.
Oh, I'm getting there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Phil Collins, 1981, In the Air Tonight. That held up.
I actually hate that song.
I'm not a big fan of it either.
I don't know why.
I'm not a huge fan. I don't hate the song, but I'm not a huge fan. I love the drum part. I mean, I think everyone loves the... You had Foreigner, I Want to Know What Love Is, 84. REO Speedwagon, Keep On Loving You, 1980. Queen, Another One Bites the Dust, 1980. Billy Joel, Uptown Girl, 83. And We Didn't Start the Fire, 89. Lionel Richie, who fucking owned the 80s, specifically the late 80s. Well, yeah, no, actually, I'm sorry, early 80s, 83. It was All Night Long and Hello. And followed by And on the Ceiling. I mean, that's, what more do you want? What more do you need? Honestly.
And there's underground hits that were all over MTV.
All kinds of underground.
One-hit wonders. Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Come on, Eileen.
Yeah. I can never remember the name of the band.
Hit me with the title of the song, I'll tell you.
Oh, gosh. I want to say I'm listening to it in my head.
Oh, well, you do know that this has to go online. So you better fucking Keanu Reeves and Neo.
I want to say like Field is somewhere in the name of the band. Something Field or I'm not really sure, but it's I have to play the song in my head mentally.
Josie's on a vacation far away.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a fucking huge hit. Huge hit. That would have been.
That is so weird that you busted that out. Like, holy shit.
Well, as soon as you said field in the title, it's the outfield.
The outfield.
And that's why I said if you can think of the name of the song or something on it, because at that point, I think that song actually came out in like 90 or 89. Well, it might have been 89. It might have been 89, but it definitely wasn't any later than 91. It's the outfield.
It was before that.
You sure? I don't think so, because I remember really hearing that a lot when I first started on the road, and that was early 90s.
85.
It was 85. Get the fuck out.
Yeah. Yep. I knew it was in the 80s.
God damn, I didn't think it was that far back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. I'm a music nerd.
So am I, but I go off of when I'm... I go off of what I remember.
I heard a song today on a radio at a restaurant. I'd never heard it before. Never heard it before. Didn't even know the artist. I had to look it up. But I'm like, the production on it sounds like it came out in 63. And I told the other half, I was like, it's got to be from 63, 62, 64. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah. I looked it up. It was 64.
No shit.
And
and you could just tell by the production?
Yeah. I'm that much of a music nerd.
See, that's the thing is that you're such a music nerd and I'm such a comedy nerd. It's interesting that I had that period of time where I was very, very and it was because I was in the car driving from gig to gig to gig to gig. And as I could get music, because oftentimes there's spots in this country where, and people don't realize it because everyone's got, now they've got, Sirius, and they've got, satellite services for the radio. They've got just
for reference, the artist that I had heard and pinpointed was Terry Stafford, which you've probably never heard of.
I don't think I have.
But they were pushing him in the early 60s because he sounded so much like Elvis.
Really?
And she was like, that's Elvis. And I was like, no,
nope.
that's not Elvis, but he's very close.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were pushing him as the new Elvis.
So for me, like what I think it's good nowadays because you've got, your phone, all your streaming services, you can listen to.
Yeah, you can hit a thing and hold your phone up and it will tell you who it is.
Who it is, exactly. So what's that? Is that Shazam?
That's one of them. There's a few apps that'll do it.
But for me, there was this very, very short period of time in my teen years going all the way up until about 22, maybe 23, where I had a lot of focal point with music. And then I had to rebuild my cassette collection into CDs. So that took some time, right? So that time, there was a period of time where I was like, I'm bored with what I've got. I'm just going to listen to the radio. And that turned into a lot of talk radio at that time. That's when Rush Limbaugh was becoming huge. That's not even that I listened to him because I agreed or liked him. It was just something different. So
at the gas station, I would listen to either Oldies 104.3 or overnight because I worked midnights. For 4 hours, I was entertained by Coast to Coast AM.
That was my favorite. Like when I could get Coast to Coast, I was in a happy place. And that was always like driving back from a gig. But driving to the gigs, you're leaving at 7 a.m. and you're not going to get there till 4 p.m. or later, or maybe the next day even, depending on how far you had to go. So like I had a lot of time alone in a vehicle to listen to music and listen to talk radio and listen to audiobooks.
Will keep you awake at night on a long drive than having something scare the crap out of you.
Oh yeah. When they're talking about alien invasions and you see some, you see demonic a shooting possession. Star. Oh fuck yeah. And then you go into a fucking rest stop and you see some fucking creature taking a leak next to you that, yeah, he may be a trucker, but he's not of this fucking planet.
He's a space trucker.
He's something. All right. We got to wrap this up, but I wanted to get into the commercials. So,
yeah.
This is.
I want to be a Toys R Us kid.
Well, look, there's that, obviously, but They're Great with Tony the Tiger was huge as we were growing up.
Yeah,
They're Magically Delicious, Lucky Charms, and Silly Rabbit, Tricks Are for Kids. These were the main cereal commercials I remember.
And fuck you, what is it, General Mills? For always screwing over the rabbit. You just always felt sorry for him. He just wanted some cereal.
Yeah, but that made you want that cereal more. Now, for toys, do you remember? Because these were ones that like really stuck out to me because they were obnoxiously over advertised. Light Bright.
Oh, yeah. Light Bright, Light Bright.
Slinky. It's Slinky.
Light Bright. There was a point where you'd finish and be like, all right.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, whatever. Slinky. Slinky, Slinky. For fun, it's a wonderful toy. It's fun for a girl and a boy. Stretch Armstrong.
Yes.
Which Stretch. I still don't know how you broke that one.
I can tell you.
Did you poke it?
Did you like?
Yeah, I've always wondered.
To tell you how?
Yeah, I always wondered how you broke my Stretch Armstrong.
It's not so stretchable when you stick it in the freezer. Oh, I was such an asshole.
And then you cracked it, didn't you?
Let's see how stretchy you are.
Did you crack them,
Mr. Armstrong?
Did you crack them? Did you crack it and then pierce the skin or what?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. How bad did you think you were going to get chewed out from me on that one?
I don't even remember. I just remember how stretchy is this?
Then you had your
Let me torture him.
you had your candy and snack commercials. So like Tootsie Roll was one.
Oh yeah. Tootsie
But
Rolls,
the owl, how many licks
yeah,
for the
I
Tootsie
was about
Pops?
to say.
Yep.
Yep.
M&M's
Tootsie Roll
melts in your mouth, not in your hands. Those were the main ones. But we were just riddled with McDonald's commercials. We were
Oh
riddled.
yeah, the Christmas McDonald's commercials.
Now you probably don't remember this, okay?
Okay.
But at one point there was a Burger Chef
Oh,
restaurant.
I remember Booger.
Do you?
Well,
Okay.
I used to call it Booger Chef.
Yeah.
It was on 12 Mile, just past Hayes. There's now a bank there or something, or it was a bank and a building there, but they tore it down. But it used to be Burger Chef. That was like the fast food corner.
Over by the college?
Yes, across the street.
Okay, because the one we used to go to was actually where the Burger King is that used to be in front of the Kmart. That is now Kroger.
Now there was one where that Taco Bell is next to it.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
And they tore it down. They used to have a Pizza Hut over there. Yeah.
So the
other one at the 12 and Shaner corner, before Thrifty Florist, was a
Jack in the Box. Yep.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite childhood memories was the tacos from there. And once they had closed, because we used to get them all the time, Mom would get us the tacos from there all the time.
Get your burger with Jack Juice.
Yep. And then
Jack sauce. That's what it was. Jack sauce.
Yeah, Jack Juice sounds bad. Sauce isn't much better. But then when I was living in California, I went and had, and I think I've told you this story. I had
get some extra Jack sauce on that. Yeah, he's making it right now. Give him a second.
But when we were in California, I went and got Jack in the Box tacos and ended up with one of the most horrific cases of food poisoning ever. Let's put it this way. It started out, I got back from the show that I did and I went to take the garbage out and I was violently vomiting in the dumpster. Now, you don't know what kind of low you've hit until you're vomiting violently in a dumpster. Because every time you go to take a breath, you're getting hot garbage because it's California. Right? In the sun. It's California in the summer. So every day, 85 degrees, right? And even though this is at night, that garbage hasn't cooled off yet. So I would throw up and then I would take a breath, catch my breath and get a whiff of the garbage again and puke again and garbage breath or garbage whiff. Boom, boom. It was this back and forth, right? So finally I get away from the dumpster. I spent 5 days in bed.
I can tell you how to solve food poisoning.
Oh, please do, because I never want to go through
seriously. The key to it is you got to keep on hand a bottle of charcoal pills.
I never thought about that.
Yes. The activated charcoal will absorb toxins that are in your stomach, food poisoning, and you'll shit it out, but it will help stop in its tracks.
So you're saying when I shit it out, I'm going to be like shitting little charcoal briquettes?
Bing, 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 bing. No, no, okay. You'll be doing the poopy normal. It's just, it'll absorb the toxins in your stomach.
I never thought of that. I'm going to go buy charcoal pills now. All right, let's wrap this up.
If it ever happens again.
Let's wrap this up because we're at an hour and a half. I'm going to give you a couple of last ones.
All right.
Weebles.
It'll be a 2-hour show.
Weebles.
I forgot about those. Those stupid little toys.
I always looked at Auntie like she was a Weeble.
Oh, God.
I did. Because
that's horrible.
Even when she was in her late 40s, early 50s, she had that kind of Weebly walk to her, right?
Her head would.
Yeah, she'd be walking, right? But as she got older,
you know what used to drive me crazy about her? Like
that list is long, but go on.
Well, for me, for you, she would always pop her gum.
Oh God,
not like a bubble, like blowing a bubble.
Little snaps.
Yeah, and it's like, what are you doing?
Just being annoying.
How are you doing that?
Oh, she would take it and she would literally take her tongue and flatten it out on the top of her mouth. And then she'd fold it over with her tongue and then push it against her fucking bridge. Because it was, I think it had to do with her bridge in some form, that it gave her some sort of pleasurable feeling. Right? And she would push it with her tongue and it just go.
Yeah. What are you doing? Stop it.
But she would never fall down. That was the thing. Like, I watched her wobble even when she was 8, like right before she died. Mm-hmm. She would weeble, she would wobble, but that bitch didn't fall down. Hot Wheels.
Oh, God, yeah.
They had more commercials.
To this day, I'll stop just to take a quick peek at the Hot Wheels. Like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
because
I
it's
love
innate.
them.
It's in the core of us as humans.
I believe
in the 80s.
Yeah. So for me, to be honest with you, I think Hot Wheels were more important to me than the little like race car, slot car things.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were stuck on a track just the same as the Hot Wheels, but you could take your Hot Wheels car off the track and roll it on the kitchen floor. You could do other things with it, You
had the Hot Wheels and you had the Matchbox.
Yeah, I was always a Hot Wheels dude. I wasn't so much a Matchbox. And the reason was because Hot Wheels had the tracks.
Yeah.
So the Hot Wheels, I don't think Matchbox had tracks, did they?
They were like the same size. I don't think they sold tracks. They were just like
no, that's what I'm saying. Like,
hey, kids.
I think Matchbox, they didn't have the tracks, but they had
a little launcher.
Oh, that's what it was. It was the launchers that they had.
Yeah.
But it didn't, to me, like Hot Wheels was the fucking bomb. All right, let me get back to my note. Oh, okay. And we'll leave it with this.
Air hockey.
Oh. Oh, that's a way to get it.
You could hear the engine from upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And we would run on downstairs, right next to the staircase.
Right.
We had the hockey table.
So I'm going to give it 2 more. No, 3 more. Woodsy the Owl. Give a hoot, don't pollute.
Yep. Smokey the Bear.
Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires. They're still doing that. They're doing it with Sam. Oh, what's his name? He's a great actor.
Samuel Elliott.
Sam Elliott. Thank you. And then we'll leave it with this. Probably one of the best educational cartoons to ever exist. Mm-hmm. You didn't even realize you were getting an education. It was just fun to watch. Schoolhouse Rock.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think I have to say anything on that. I think we're just going to let that be. We're going to let that sit. We're going to let that lay soggy in the bottom of the bowl. Let anyone who made it to the end of this podcast, because most people don't, Schoolhouse Rock.